today we're going to do another close reading. Friday we did a narrative text. Today we're going to do a nonfiction. The purpose of close reading is to look closely at a difficult text to figure out the underlying meaning, and also to tease out some of the things that aren't automatically apparent. Are we going to close read a 17 magazine article? No, it needs to be hard, okay? This is the kind of stuff you're going to see in college. So the text I actually gave you is from my sophomore year in college. So I have a special connection to it. But we're close reading things that you read in college, and this is how I want you to read in college. You're going to make notes to help you remember, to help you ask questions, and to help you get the overall meaning from a text that has multiple layers to it. Because remember, we read this 2 or 3 times in one sitting, okay? So what we do when we first close read is I want you guys to annotate. So our first annotations are going to be related to the essential question, which is worse, failing or never trying? So this is a little bit different than last time because I'm giving you something to think about at the very, very outset. So just to remind you, when we annotate, I want you guys underlining your main ideas in pen or pencil. And remember, this is a hard text, so will you know what the main idea is during your first read? Maybe not, but I want you to take a risk. I want you to underline it even if you think it's the main idea, just practice. There's no wrong way to annotate this text. The only thing you can do that wouldn't be helpful to you is to not write anything. The more you have, the better it is. It doesn't mean you don't understand the text. It means you're trying to understand it. Secondly, I want you to circle words that you don't know in pink or orange, okay? If there's a whole phrase you don't know, I want you to wait until this next step. So pink or orange for words you don't know. If you have a section that you don't understand, okay, like multiple sentences, I want you to highlight them in yellow, and I want you to write your questions in the margins. That's very important. Has anyone ever highlighted something in a book, and then you come back and you look at it and it's highlighted, but you don't remember why you highlighted it? Yeah, I have books with all kinds of stuff like that in there. Make sure you write why you highlighted it. Okay, so if they talk about, does anyone remember the person that we learned about on Friday, the he? Yeah. Did anyone write, who is he? Yeah. What's his name? What does he do? Those are the kinds of questions I want you asking, okay? So make sure you write a question. Similarly, if you see something that you know really well or that strikes you, I know on Friday I saw some people putting exclamation points in areas that they thought were exciting. Put an exclamation point there and say why you think that section of the text is either exciting or reminds you of something else or why you like it. I saw some really good annotations where someone wrote an exclamation mark and they said, I really understand this. And I liked that. For your first read, we're going to do something a little different. I want you to just identify the topic of the piece. What is this about? And what you think the main ideas might be. And so what I've given you is a piece of text from your book called Man's Search for Meaning. So I've copied it out of your book so you can actually make notes on it, and it's a little bit bigger. What is the author recounting? So what's he telling us right now? And how do we know? So remember, when we do close reading, our first step is to answer the question, but then we have to go back and say where we found it in the text. Okay, so when you talk to your classmates about how you know, so for example, let's say the Holocaust. Somebody raise their hand and tell me what in the text lets them know this is about the Holocaust. Justine?
In paragraph 1, he talks about a capo or a capo or whatever, and those were like the people from the Holocaust, like at the concentration camps, who were in charge of some of the prisoners in the camp.
I forced my thoughts to turn to another subject. So while he's in line with the other men, he's forcing himself to think of other things so that it won't be as awful as it is. And so he says, I saw myself standing on the platform. And so he's daydreaming that he was teaching.
So he's really only going to 2 different places. He's saying it's very cold there, and bitter winds. And then it says that I don't know.
Who could help me obtain work in a camp instead of undertaking this horribly long daily life?
Technically, he's like being tortured. So, you know, it's not in the U.S. because that doesn't really happen in the U.S.
Yeah. He's only getting a couple rations of food a day. Says that first paragraph.
It's showing like the struggles of him, like what he has to go through, what he should do and shouldn't do. Like he's saying if he should, like if he gets another piece of food, should he trade it for a bowl of soup? Should he trade it for some shoelaces, some metal, like the things he needs?
He's trading it for simple things. So we know that he's not like in the daily life. He's trading it for like for food. He's saying that he pretty much needs food.
It's the struggles of life.
Yes, exactly. What about you guys?
Mostly just explaining from the beginning, explaining what to do for him to survive.
Some people thought that he was flashing back to a memory. Stephanie, do you want to comment on that?
Well, kind of, I think, because here in the paragraph it said that he observed them as if they were already of the past. So that means that it isn't in the past and it's probably in the present. So I'm guessing, kind of like what Lex is saying, it's either like in his thoughts or it's something that's happening at the moment.
Good. What do you guys think? Aaliyah, you have a thought about that?
I actually don't think that this is happening at the moment. Well, I do think that he's in the camp at the moment, but in his thoughts he's in the camp at the moment, but this, like the speech giving, like he's not actually giving that, that's just his way to get away.
How do you know he's getting away?
Because he said it. He said, I forced my thoughts to another subject. And then he said, suddenly I saw myself.
Good. Good. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear, that he's not actually flashing back. Like Stephanie said, he's acting as though these things had already happened. Okay, so I saw a couple people with that part highlighted on their page. I just want to make sure that you guys know that's not a flashback. That's a thing that he wants to happen in the future. Anna.
Wait, so is he remembering this?
So Stephanie, can you point us to that section again real quick?
It's in the second paragraph, and then it's right before it said, by this method I succeeded somehow in rising above the situation, and then above the sufferings of the moment, and I observed them as if they were already of the past.
Oh. Does that make more sense, Anna? It's just one, and this is why close reading is so cool, because that one section completely changes it. It could have been a memory up until we read that. I want you to think about how Frankel, and that's the author, how Frankel's thoughts affect his experience in the concentration camp. So when does he talk about thoughts? What does he say about them? And make sure you're looking through all the paragraphs.
Basically like the first paragraph, because he's not talking to anyone, he's just like thinking out loud, or maybe like in his head.
Yeah.
He's asking himself questions like, would I get to work in the campsite during the usual working party? Like he's asking himself questions.
Very good. So just think about, as we talk as a group, what role those questions have. Why is he asking them?
So you like so he can have like better treatment or like better life for them? So it'd be easier for him.
Maybe survival, right? What are some other reasons why? Because I want you to look here too. He would have questions like this, and then questions like the ones he has in the second one.
So like, does he know he's gonna?
And that's a harder one, so we'll talk about that one as a group. What kinds of thinking does he have? What are the two different kinds?
The first, when he's daydreaming about something he loves, and I think he was a scientist, or he was like a teacher or a professor, and then he wants to go back to when he was teaching instead of suffering at the camp. But when he's making his mental list, it's like, if I'm gonna get food, I'm gonna get food. Like it's like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. So what can he do to change it? He's not getting food right now, so it's just like wasting his time.
And so how was the daydreaming not wasting his time?
The daydream when he's doing something about, well, I think it already happened. So he's dreaming about something that, he couldn't change because it already happened. But this one, he can't do nothing about it. He's like weakness, he's defensive right now.
Stephanie?
I think he daydreams to get away from things. Just like people like some people read to get away from things. Some people like play like reality video games, as they can be another character, they can be someone else for a change. And as to daydream, you can dream a whole nother thing and don't think about what's going on in real life.
Okay. Yeah, you can. So why would he think that's important? Alasia?
I kind of think he doesn't think it's important because in the last sentence he says emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. So that's kind of like saying when he really looks at it, he can tell that it's not as important as he was thinking when he was first having his daydream.
So he's saying the daydream is not as important as it was before. What do you guys think about that? I haven't heard that perspective. That's really interesting. Stephanie?
I think he daydreams, kind of like to get away from stuff, but I feel like he deals with stuff mentally and psychologically, and he talks about how, I think he means like the material things don't really matter to him, like even like the food and stuff like that. I feel like he's like in the last sentence of paragraph 2, he says emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. I think he kind of means like once you mentally like get through things, they're not as hard, and he kind of got through everything by like kind of like mentally putting himself in a position where he could get past everything instead of using other things to like not having hope and stuff like that. Like he mentally prepared himself for stuff.
As they're reading, continue taking notes, but in this time you're going to talk about the tone, okay? Does everybody know what tone is? Yes. Can somebody raise their hand and let us know? Victor, you want to go for it?
The tone could be what kind of tone this story is like giving, like putting out to us, like how it makes us feel, kind of.
Good, perfect. And so what I want you to pay close attention to is tone is created by words, okay? Look at the kinds of words he uses that give us that feeling. That's perfect, Victor. When I talk about tone, I have to do that too. Like, it's just about, I don't know, that. Okay, so while you're reading, pay attention to the tone. So this might be a great time to just underline words, okay? Find the words that clue you into what he's actually feeling about this. Yeah, he might feel good. And so when you were up here, how did he feel about what was happening there? He was panicking. What kind of words did he use?
The way he kept on asking questions, it sounded like he was in a panic. Like when he doesn't know what to do, he just keeps on asking questions before he get answered, and he doesn't show that he can answer at all. So he tries to step back and not worry.
Perfect. Yeah, this is a panicking kind of feeling. I like that you pointed that out. Open-ended questions. I want you to look at some of the words he uses too, okay? Tears, pain. What other things do you see there? Torn. So Nick, while they're talking about this, I want you to go through and pick out some words that have meaning to you. Now that we've thought about the tone, okay, or the words that contribute to the tone, I want you to think about this quotation at the end of paragraph 2. It's the Latin phrase, and a note on that, when I read something and I see it's in a different language, and usually you can tell because it's italicized, I don't actually read through the whole Latin phrase. Believe it or not, I don't know Latin. Because usually the translation comes right after, okay? It'll either be in a footnote or an asterisk, but in this case it comes right after, okay? So it says, emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. So I want you to talk about the tone of paragraph 2 and how this relates to that quotation. How is he fitting those two together?
He's picturing himself like in the future of how he might want his life to be.
Okay, so there's that future again. What else? Kit Kat?
I want to add on to both what Anna and Elizabeth said. Like the beginning, it shows hope, and it like even though he knows that he doubts that any of that's gonna happen to him, but he, like the quote said, the emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear picture, precise picture. Like if he made a clear picture of what he wants, there's chances like it could happen to him. So he wants to keep happening it so he can hope. If you keep like thinking about it, it will come true. Like it will make you believe yourself that everything.
And in the third paragraph, it kind of seems like he was saying that everybody else was weak, and that's why they didn't make it through. And then when he says, by this method, I succeeded somehow in rising above the situation, in the second paragraph, that kind of seems to me like he's saying he's stronger than them, and that's why he made it through.
Aaliyah?
the second paragraph is kind of like cathartic, like it's a release of all that tension he had in the first paragraph. And then in the third paragraph, it's kind of reflective because he's saying, oh, this could happen. What happens at the end, like how he's just laying in his own stuff. That could happen if he did give up. I don't think he thinks that he's like better than anyone, because I think that even though he separated himself from that's still a reflection of what could happen to him.
What does failure mean in a concentration camp? Okay, he's given us two options, two main options anyway. What happens if you fail? So what is it and what happens? And use specific examples from the text.
It's not that they don't care, it's like they can't do anything about it, and it's like they've given up and they've lost faith, so they have nothing else to do.
Yeah. I think like what fail really means is like to fail in a concentration camp, you pretty much lost your faith or hope in anything like that, or if you just not tried anything, you just died. That would be like the ultimate failure.